سلام دوستان عزیز، عرض ادب و احترام دارم خدمتتون. خیلی خوشحالم که در خدمتتون هستم. امروز لایو خیلی مخصوصمون رو داریم. من منتظرم تا بچه ها جمع بشن و این مهمان عزیز بزرگوار هم تشریف بیارن بالا. آقایان خانم ها، میخوام معرفی بکنم. نویسنده، موزیسین و فیلم میکر، کارگردان. منتظرشون هستم تشریف بیارن بالا. این شما و این هم. Oh, okay. Do you want to add this site?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, here is Greg Rich. Okay, do you want to like that? Okay, I can turn it right back down also. So, everyone, with honor, we have a Greg Rich, author, writer, filmmaker, musician, and reporter Greg Rich. Hi, Greg.
Hello. Salam.
Salam.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so it seemed somebody was complaining about our voices. Hey guys, do you have بچه صدای ما رو خوب میشنوین شما؟ آیا صدامون خوب هست؟ Okay, I was waiting for the response. Yes, okay, great. So today we have a Greg Rich here. So we have lots of questions of him. Most of our studies knows him well, and most of our non-studies maybe doesn't know him. So Greg, in this interview, I will record that meeting, and I will subtitle it in the Persian for our audience. So meanwhile, because I'm not gonna be, my audience will be boring, I'm going to translate conceptual, not word by word, for the audience. Is that okay?
Yeah.
اوکی بچه ها، من امروز با آقای گرگ ریس دارم صحبت میکنم. ایشون نویسنده، قطعا همتون میشناسین، ریپورتر خبرنگار شبکه اینفووارز هستن که مصاحبه بسیار زیادی با مرداد حسینی داشتن. عرضم به حضورتون که ما فقط من سعی میکنم تو این برای که شما متوجه بشید در چه صحبت میکنیم خیلی خلاصه وار توضیح بدم که چه چیزایی ایشون میگن و من چه سوالاتی میپرسم. بعداً این ویدیو رو من زیرنویس میکنم و دوباره منتشرش میکنم که کلمه به کلمه حرفشون رو هم بفهمیم. اما ازشون بپرسم که چگونه با مرداد حسینی و جریان ریستارت آشنا شدن. Okay, Greg, how did you get familiar with the restart movement? Oh, first of all, tell me about your background. Sorry, tell me about your background and resume. Most of all doesn't know that.
My background?
Yes, in your resume.
Oh, well, my background isn't so interesting, I think, as far as what I'm doing right now. I mean, it's interesting in the sense that it seems totally unrelated in some ways. Maybe not. I mean, I've been making music and videos since I was a toddler, since I was a young kid, and that's always been sort of the thing I've done for fun, satisfaction, inspiration. And then I've worked as a builder most of my life, carpenter, plumber. And I just worked as little as possible so that I had as much time in my life to make videos and music and do things that I really liked. That's basically it. And then I lived a very wild life, a very wild, spoiled American life of freedom and doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And grew up the hard way from experience and the right way. And that's basically it. The way I got in touch with the Restart was, so I started working for InfoWars after living in a spiritual community for about 3 years. I lived alone in a temple for about 3 years in Virginia. And then I was kind of preparing for, the end of America, because I didn't see any hope. And then it wasn't Trump's election that gave me hope. It was seeing his actions in his first year convinced me that he was a patriot, and that he represented some type of challenger, some type of hope. So then I got me back involved, and then I left the temple, and I ended up coming to InfoWars. And within my first few months at InfoWars, I did a report on Iran. I've always been very interested in Iran, and then I was just inundated with people on Twitter from Restart. Mm-hmm. And all I could really understand was restart, and leader. And then so I got in touch with as many English-speaking restartees as I could on Twitter, and then started a back and forth and asking questions and trying to get an idea of what was going on. And then so that's how I became familiar with Restart.
Yeah, let's translate to Persian. از آقای گریگریس پرسیدم که در مورد زندگی خودشون یک توضیح بدن و اینکه چگونه با جریان ریستارت آشنا شدن. ایشون فرمودن که چون ایشون یه سری تجربات معنوی رو داشتن، یه یوگی هستن در حقیقت، اینه که چندین سال رو در بعد چند وقتی که در یک حالت دیر یا یک معبدی رو گذروندن، اومدن بیرون و به اینفووارز جوین شدن. و بعد از اون بودش که وقتی که من قرار بود در مورد یک ریپورت در مورد ایران بنویسم، با کلمه ریستارت و ریستارت موومنت آشنا شدم. بعد از اونم با بچهای ریستارت که انگلیسی صحبت می‌کردن در حقیقت ارتباط برقرار کردن. من خودم در حقیقت به مخاطبین ایشون هم معرفی میکنم، چون که به حال از اونها هم هستن اینجا. So Greek, actually I forgot to introduce myself to your audience also. So my name is Majd. So we keep in touch with Greg regarding to interpreting the Said Mohammed Hosseini's interview. So I graduated in cybersecurity software engineering from the University of Washington. بهشون گفتم که من در حقیقت کی هستم، در بحث مترجمی مصاحبه سید محمد حسینی اینجا آقای گریگریس رو شناختم و اینکه در حقیقت رشته تحصیلیم چی هستش و اینها. Alright, so let's go to next topic actually, which is so important. So I mean, most of people are criticize us about about why does a political movement have a mystical background? I wanted to know your opinion because you already mentioned that you are a yogi. So what's your opinion about it?
That's my favorite thing about Restart.
Okay.
That is, I mean, I'd like to see America have more of that. I believe that our founding fathers that wrote our Constitution 200 years ago plus, I believe that they were also members of a more spiritual, mystical brotherhood. I think it's clear in the language, and we know they were. We know that a lot of them were members of Masonic societies and things like that. Freemasons get a bad rap. I think almost every tradition has been subverted and taken over in the modern world. So, but we are, the times that we're in right now, these are epic times. These are, I think it's an end of an era. I think it's the shift between eras. Some would say the equinox, precession of the equinox, 26,000 year cycle. That's what I tend to lean towards. Pole shift. We see the poles, the magnetic poles are shifting. And when we look at the record of pole shifts in the past, that has to have some type of relationship to what's happening. According to yoga tradition, there are cycles in life, eras, ages. And so we're at the shifting, I think, between one age and the next age.
Okay.
That's a long answer, but yeah, so that's my favorite thing about Restart is that
has a mystical background.
Yes, it embraces the biggest truth there is. The biggest truth there is that we are spiritual beings living in physical experience, and there's a purpose to it. And the only way any of us are going to find that purpose is by harmonizing with it and tuning into it and accepting it and playing with it.
Gotcha. Let's run that. Okay. از آقای گریویس پرسیدم که بعضی‌ها در حقیقت انتقادی وارد میکنن مخصوصا به جریان ریستارت که چرا یک جریان سیاسی بود یک عقبه عرفانی داشته باشه. در مورد عرفان می‌خواست صحبت بکنه. ایشون فرمودن که پدران بنیانگذار امریکا در حقیقت خودشون چنین معرفتی رو داشتن و یکی از مهمترین چیزهایی که ایشون در مورد جریان ریستارت اتفاقا دوست دارن همین هستش که چنین معرفت انسان دوستانه‌ای رو در پشت خودش داره و آرزو می‌کردن که ای کاش بقیه اپوزیشن های چه ایرانی‌ها چه داخل امریکا این خاصیت رو بیشتر داشتن. میخوام در مورد کتاب خود آقای گریویس بپرسم. یک کتاب نوشتن قرار بچه‌ها رییس قرار ترجمهش بکنن. Hey Greg, most of people doesn't know that you are an author. You have a book named Sex, Drug and if I'm right? So
yes.
And yes, so, as far as I know, some people want to translate to Persian. How about it? Any news about it?
No, I've been so busy on current events. There was a brief window of time where things weren't before 2020 when things weren't so crazy that I was considering getting it translated into Persian. And then I want to the cover I think is very bad and the blurb is very bad. So I wanted to redo it and but I haven't really. I've just been so focused on trying to keep up with what's happening right now, and I'd actually love to start. The book that you mentioned is a book. It's a life story, I guess, or the first half of my life, I guess you could say, and it is about. I guess you could say it's about traumatic abuse, traumatic childhood abuse, and the effects that it has on a person throughout their lives and throughout adulthood, and more importantly, how a person has the ability to form a relationship with God and heal themselves from all this trauma and to become present and get over the past and all this good stuff. So, and really, I'd love to start a second book. There's so much important things to write about right now. I mean. But once again, I think this is also right now. I'm just sort of working on forming the habits again of writing a second book. But I think that everyone needs to focus 100% of their attention right now into the present because it's extremely important. Crazy times right now.
I see. Okay. در مورد کتابشون پرسیدنشون گفتن که هنوز در حقیقت ترجمه نشده و حالا خودشون هم دل مشغولی داشتن در مورد انتخابات 2020 و این حرفا. گفتن ولی کتاب دومی رو دارن در حال در دست قلم دارن که ان شاء الله خواهند نوشتش. کتاب اولشون بیشتر در مورد اتوبیوگرافی خودشون هست و یک جورایی زندگی خودشون هست و به نوعی در مورد خودشون هستش. Okay, let's move on another topic. What's your opinion about Restart leader Sayyid Mohammad Husseini? How do you describe him?
I like Sayyid Mohammad Husseini. That was one of the first really exciting things I've done at InfoWars was I got to go to California and interview him. And it was exciting because he's a man that very few people know about, and he's a man that the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Islamic regime of Iran has asked international police to arrest.
Yep.
Very interesting, and he was a celebrity, kind of a goofy comedic celebrity in Iran before all this. So I think right off the bat, I thought a very interesting gentleman. And meeting him in person was great. I met him and two of his friends in California, and Everyone was very well dressed, which is up to Persian stereotype, which is good. And I thought I met his son, and I thought it was a pleasure meeting all of them. Very good men, I thought. I very much enjoyed chatting with Mr. Hosseini, and we were keeping in touch for a bit up until 2020, probably 2020. I mean, things have just been so crazy now in 2020. I would love to see him again. I keep wanting to, next time I'm in his area in California, to have dinner. I will say this, the most interesting thing he said to me, and I quote him all the time on this, is he said, we were talking once about the people that aren't awake. So like Restart is a very enlightened crowd of people, part of the Great Awakening, I would say. There are people all over the world that are waking up, that are learning how to think for themselves and seeing things as they really are. But then there are also a lot of people that aren't, that are falling more asleep, that are like, it's crazy. It's actually very sad and scary to see all these people that are like falling under the spell. So I was talking to Syed Muhammad about that, and I was like, what are we going to do about these people? You know, I mean, and he said, we need to change the art. And when he first said that, it didn't make sense to me, because I wasn't thinking, like, in America, art has become television, Hollywood, music, mainstream media, pop culture. That's the art. And it's all propaganda. It's all full of lies. It's all full of hate. It's all a very dark, ugly, dismal, satanic, Luciferian, destructive art. And he's exactly right. That's the only way we are going to steer the herd away from the cliff. Right now, the herd is being activated to like kill us, to kill patriots, to attack patriots. Great. And so the only way we're going to change that is to somehow take control of the art, the media. The media is the biggest enemy of the people. It's the most powerful weapon being used against the people. Great. And so that was the most interesting thing that Syed said to me. And I think one of the reasons it's so interesting is that in America, when we think of the word art, we don't think of the media, but that's exactly what it is. And the reason we don't think that is because when we think of art, I think we tend to think of something as beautiful. I know, yeah. And the media is not beautiful. The media and what we have in America is just ugly. The crazy Arab Muslims say that we're the great Satan. And in a way, we look like it because our media certainly looks like the great Satan, you know. So we need to change it back into something beautiful. And what's beautiful is the truth. That's what's beautiful, is just speaking the truth and allowing artists to express opinions on the truth. Okay, so let's translate those things to the audience. So ازشون پرسیدم که چجوری با سید آشنا شدن و در حقیقت نظرشون در مورد سید محمد حسینی چیه. ایشون گفتن که تو اون ملاقاتی که داشتن مشخصا با ایشون به انهایم کالیفرنیا برای مصاحبه و فرزند جناب سید محمد حسینی، ایشون یه انسان بسیار بسیار اسمارت و خیلی روشن ضمیری دیدن. خیلی ازشون خوششون اومد و یه سری در حقیقت واژه‌هایی رو که سید محمد حسینی در اون مصاحبه استفاده کردن ایشون همواره به خاطر دارن. یکی از اون واژه‌ها در حقیقت در مورد این بودش که رییس اومده که انسان‌ها رو بیدار بکنه، این بیداری رو تزریق بکنه به جامعه. و همچنین سید محمد حسینی تو اون در ارتباطی که باشون داشتن در مورد هنر صحبت کردن، اینکه زمانی رسانه‌ها قرار بود هنر باشن. هنر از اساس زیبایی داره به خودش، اما مدیاهای امروزی اصلا زیبا نیستن، زشت هستن و کاملا در هدف مقاصد پلید و شیطانی هستن. خب میخوام ازشون بپرسم در مورد اینکه چالش ریستارتیا و اینکه نظرشون چی هستش اینا. So as you know very well actually, so the restart has done lots of challenges against the terrorist Iranian regime, but the all media that you mentioned are censored us. What do you think about it? Well, I mean, it seems like Restart is the voice of Persia is it seems to me it's and that's how I've learned about Persia and Persian culture. And what I've learned so far is that Restart is an excellent example of Persian culture. So I think I've gotten a pretty good education on that from that. And so the majority of Iran is Persia. So it would be, it makes sense to me exactly why the Iranian media is keeping everyone ignorant of Restart, is because Restart would become the most popular movement in Iran if it was allowed to be given its voice. Because I mean, it speaks. Everyone would want a Second Amendment, as we call it in America.
Yes, exactly. That actually
everyone would want that. Yeah. Even old women would probably want that in Iran. I mean, it's like so. That alone. Same reason in America. The same reason in America why in America the media says that white men are bad, and they say that anyone who talks about the Constitution, anyone who talks about the Second Amendment, anyone who's a patriot is a bad person, is a Nazi, is what they're even saying, or a racist. Mostly they're saying racists. Yeah. And it's kind of obvious because the majority of America is white. The majority, the people that are going to stand up and defend America, typically majority-wise, are going.
Oh. Sorry, Greg. I think I lost your voice or your connection. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
And so it makes sense that these are the people that you want to make out to be the enemy, because these are the ones that are going to, challenge the enemy and defend America. But the sad thing is that it works. I mean, in America, so my whole life growing up, if you were patriotic, if you spoke about the Constitution, then you were an admirable, respectable person in this country. That's how you showed basically that you were a righteous, proud steward, responsible citizen. And so you would think that it would be very difficult to flip that and to convince people that patriotic people are like racist bad people. But they did it. They did it in like 3 years. They did it in a short period of time, to where now you see actual American citizens that are so brainwashed that they're attacking people just because of their skin color. And they're attacking people that are carrying an American flag because they are now somehow convinced that is it's absolute insanity. While you're translating, I got 2 minutes. I got to do something. That was what that alarm was for. Okay, but I'll be back in 2 minutes.
All right.
I'll be back in 2 minutes. So
I'm going to translate all things. Okay, don't worry. Okay. گفتن که تا من ترجمه میکنم حرف ایشون رو، ایشون برن 2 دقیقه یه کاری دارم سری برگردن. خب در مورد بچه‌های ریاست رو داشتم پرسیدم که این چالش زیادی رو انجام دادن، ولی تو رسانه‌ها، مخصوصا رسانه‌های امریکایی و در حقیقت همه رسانه‌های دنیا، چرا سانسور شده بودن. ایشون فرمودن که در حقیقت این اتفاق برای همه میهن پرستان در هر لباس و هر شکلی که باشه اتفاق میفته، برای که استریم مدیاها یا اون مین استریم مدیاهای امریکایی تحت اشغال یه سری تفکرات خاصی هستش که نمیخوان صدای میهن پرستان جهان به طور کلی شنیده بشه. ایشون ریستارت رو شاید به نوعی تنها یا شاید قوی ترین جریان میهن پرستانه‌ای میدونن که از سمت مردمان پرشیا اومده، نمایندگی میکنه این فرهنگ پرشیا رو در حقیقت. و خیلی ایشون اصرار داشتش که از گفتن این کلام و این واژه‌های میهن پرستانه شکلی نه هراسید، برای اینکه تو خود امریکا هم که وقتی که در حقیقت بیشترین اکثریت مردمانی هستن رنگ یا به نژاد سفید شناخته میشن، متاسفانه در عرض کمتر از 3 سال مدیاها و این رسانه‌ها چنان کاری کردن با در حقیقت مردم امریکا که هر کسی رو که بخواد کلامی از میهن پرستی صحبت بکنه یا در مورد در مورد میهن پرستی یا امریکا بخواد صحبت بکنه، اونو سریعا متهمش میکنن به واژه‌های مثل نازیسم، حتی در حقیقت بعدش اشاره کرد که خیلی متهمش میکنن به ریسیزم، یعنی نژادگرایی یا مثلا نژاد پرستی، که واقعا درست نیست این واژه ها در مورد این مردمان عزیز. و یه کلیت حرفایشون در همین رابطه بود که این اتفاق میفته در حقیقت. من حالا سوالات بعدی که میخوام ازشون بپرسم در حقیقت این هستش که بچه‌های ریاستی چگونه میتونن که این پیامشون رو بهتر برسونن به گوش جهانیان و مخصوصا میدیاها، این که با چگونه در حقیقت چه سیاستی رو در پیش بگیریم. وقتی که ایشون برگردن من میخوام که بیشتر در مورد سیاست روز امریکا ازشون سوال بپرسم، در مورد جان بولتون مخصوصا، اینکه نظرشون در مورد این جان بولتون چیه. مرداد حسینی 5 سال پیش در مورد کودتایی که قرار بود در ایران شکل بگیره صحبت کردن، یعنی که قراره که یه سری اتفاقی بیفته، انقلاب نمایی، شبه انقلابی مثلا شکل بگیره و در حقیقت یه شخص کرواتی خاصی رو بیان اونجا معرفی بکنن، بنشونن به عنوان رهبر این جریانات، که حالا ایشون توی برنامه‌هاش استاد مرداد حسینی اشاره کردن کاملا در این رابطه. یعنی که نظر استاد مرداد حسینی بودش که این آدم در حقیقت از طرف مجاهدین خلق مأمور بود. Okay, so I was translating and I already mentioned some my next question about that. Okay, so just a quick question. So how do you think we restartists can we deliver our message more efficient?
Oh man, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I'd say that's probably the biggest question I get from Restart. I think you're doing an excellent job. And I don't really know what it's like in Iran, but I think, really ultimately where we're at, we need to take control of our countries. We need to take control of our media. We need to, yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I've been so, like I haven't done any reports on Iran. I haven't done anything with Iran or Restart in a long time now, is because my country it's in a very, I mean, we're at a point right now where nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's happening. There are a lot of people that have an incredible absolute faith in President Trump. I don't. I mean, my life, my entire lifetime, the U.S. government has been completely corrupt. In my entire lifetime, the U.S. government has been slowly on this road of destroying America. It's all been part of the plan. Trump, I believe, is against this plan. I believe he is for the people, but how much can he do? How much power does one president have? So I believe there must be a movement behind him. There must be some type of movement, alliance of patriots working with the president. But still, I mean, what we're seeing is, ever since COVID, things have been different. Ever since COVID, it kind of looks like the president has been getting his ass kicked. The confidence isn't there. The action isn't there. He's been losing a lot of people's, I mean, so we're watching these riots. We're watching these people destroying our history, destroying statues. We're watching people terrorize the public, stopping traffic, dragging people out of their cars, beating them, all in the name of Black lives. It's total insanity.
It is.
What's even crazier is that people are falling for it, even though it has all the support of multinational corporations all over the world. People still think, people are just. So how can Restart do a better job? I think at this point, just get ready. I don't think, you can keep, if someone comes to you and asks you a question, answer them. But and keep putting out your information. But at this point, I think the people that are waking up are going to wake up, and the people that aren't. And so I think the most important thing anyone can do right now is to focus on yourself. Make yourself as good as you can. You know, look at, you know, really look inside yourself. Look for your weaknesses, look for your flaws, and try to address those and try to overcome those things, because it's really going to come down to, if we want, I want what Restart wants. Restart is very clear about their goals, and their goals are the most realistic goals, I think, which is that the entire world is either going to slip into darkness, or the entire world is going to experience some type of awakening, restart.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think so. Long answer to the question, but I would say the best thing anyone can do right now, whether you're Restart or whether you're a patriot in any country, is really start looking at yourself.
Alright. So ازش بپرسن که بچه‌ها رییس‌ها چجوری میتونن بهتر پیامشون رو به جهانیان برسونن. ایشون گفتن که در حقیقت این مشکلی که همه میهن پرستان در سراسر جهان دارن، فقط مخصوص مختص بچهای ایرانی یا پارسیان پرشیان نیستش. فقط رییس‌ها مشکلی که حتی خود امریکایی‌ها دارن، زمانی که پرزیدنت ترامپ سر کار اومده تا همین زمان کووید 19 این ویروس کرونا، این مشکلات تو همین الانش هم وجود داشته. بهترین روشی که ایشون داشت صحبت می‌کرد که به نظرم خیلی نکته جالبی بود، گفت آقا تا الان اون کسایی که قرار بوده بیدار بشن بیدار شدن، هر کی باید میشنیده تا الان، اگر هم کسی دیگه نشنیده نمیخواد که دیگه بشنوه. نظرشون حالا اینجوری بود، خیلی جالب بود. چون منو یاد حرفای سید مینداخت که بچه‌ها ریاست و تبلیغ کلا با دیگه سر در گریبان خودشون فرو ببرن، کاری به چپ و راست نشاشن. و اینکه میگفتن که سعی کنین که نقاط ضعف و قوت رو در خودتون پیدا بکنین، پیامتون به اون گوش اون کسانی که با تا الان میرسیده رسیده. Okay, من میخوام در مورد گلوبالیسم و کیوانان ازشون سوال بپرسم. Okay, Greg, I know you're a specialist in globalism, and I'm going to ask you about globalism. What is this? Would you explain more about it?
So, on the surface, it's simply a reformation of power, adapting to the modern era, forming a global government, one government. That's the way it's been planned for at least 100 years, probably more than 100 years, seems to be using the communist Chinese model as the beta test, as the model that the rest of the world will then fall under. And that seems pretty clear, the way that globalists brag and about China and how great communist China is, and I can see why they like it, because communist China it's the most sophisticated form of tyranny that the world has ever seen, the most advanced form of authoritarianism. So, but really what I think globalism is, on a more spiritual, on a more mystical angle, is, like I said earlier, I think we're at the end of an era. I think we're at a shift between ages. And what I think globalism is, the new world order, as many people call it, this is the ruling bloodlines, the ruling class that has ruled over humanity for millennia, since Babylon. I mean, a lot of them, a lot of these ruling families brag and that their families have been in power since, Sumer, since Babylon.
Yeah.
And what globalism is, I think, it's these families, these ruling bloodlines that feel entitled, that have inherited their power. They are basically trying to rebrand themselves and trying to get ahead of this shift, so that when the shift occurs, they can still maintain control or power. Maybe it's not even that tricky. Maybe it's all being handed to them. and this is just the show. But it's not, the thing about the New World Order is they're not new. They've been here, they've been in power for at least all of our lifetimes, but much longer than that.
Correct.
They're just rebranding it. And we can see now how they're rebranding it, because they're doing everything in like fast forward now that we have President Trump elected, which challenged their plans for the first time, and their plans did not include they didn't seem to include a contingency plan for people discovering the plan, you know, for being challenged. So once they were challenged, that we've been seeing a very rapid rollout of the agenda, and we can see it now. And it's you know, the COVID is there to scare everyone. The masks are there to slowly condition and brainwash people into this submission. You know, wear a mask now, then it'll be a vaccine, then it'll be taking the track. You know, it's we can see where this is all going.
Yeah.
So globalism is, and the people that fall for it, that they're not even that much better, because a lot of people are convinced that the only way the planet is going to survive is if a lot of us die. You know, because they say that the problem is there's too many people.
Okay.
And I don't see any evidence for that. So a lot of the people that support, a lot of the your average people that are just, you know, aren't involved in any of this other than watching TV, they're accepting the globalism because they think that, oh, well, that's good. That's what needs to happen.
Gotcha. Let's translate. دوستان فقط لطفا قلب بغل بزنیم بچه‌ها. ممنون میشم چون میخوام کوالیتی لایو خیلی بالا بمونه و خدا نکرده ریپورت نشه. از گریگ عزیز در مورد گلوبالیسم پرسیدن، جهان گلوبالیسم چی هستش این حرفا. خیلی توضیحات جامعی دادن، حیفم میاد که اینا رو بخوام چیزش بکنم. فقط خیلی کوتاه توضیح بدم. ایشون گفتش که کشور چین رو به عنوان یک سامپل گلوبالیستا برای چندین دهه روش آزمایش کردن. اون در حقیقت اون اتفاقی که چین افتاد رو به عنوان نمونه گرفتن و برای کل جهان میخوان پیاده سازیش بکنن. در حقیقت گلوبالیسم قراره به نوعی دولت بزرگ جهانی چین باشه در نهایت، که همه مردم دنیا بشن مثلا بردگان اون سیستم خطرناک. و خیلی مینستریم میدیاها و در حقیقت اون رسانه ها بازوهای این جریان خطرناک هستن که میبینیم تو جریاناتی مثل کووید 19 ویروس کرونا و اینکه ماسک میزنن، در مورد داروها، اینا خیلی مطالب خیلی مهمیه که بخوام توضیح بدم واقعا همش زمان میبره. من اینها رو حتما تو ذهنیت میکنم که استفادهش بکنین. حیفه که واقعا اونا رو بخوام خلاصه‌شون بکنم در موردش صحبت بکنم. میخوام در مورد کیوانان ازشون بپرسم و در مورد آزادی رسانه ها توی امریکا. Okay, Greg, let's talk about another topic. Some people are talking about QAnon, and honestly, nobody doesn't know who are they exactly, right? Since QAnon was supporting Restart MIGA, I wanted to know what's your opinion about them, please.
Well, first I will say this. I will say, remember in this story, in the beginning of the interview, I said I was at a temple and I was just working on acceptance and what really got me activated was Q. Somehow, and I wasn't watching 4chan, I wasn't looking, I never even really heard of 4chan or 8chan, so I wasn't looking at those boards. And I wasn't really even looking that deep into, you know, global politics that much, because I was mostly focusing on spiritual things. But somehow I caught Q's very first post on the very first day, the very same day that Q posted in 2017. So I thought that was kind of weird. And it immediately got my attention, which is also kind of weird. And so here's what I'll say about there, but there's also been a lot of bad info, a lot of clearly bad info coming from Q. So nobody knows. One thing I will say is Q knew whatever Q is. Q got a lot of it right. Q. One of the things Q kept saying over and over and over again is this is going to get biblical. This is going to be biblical, and it sure as hell is. And that could have been you know, I mean, that's a lot of people were guessing that was a possibility. So anyways, there's two things. One, there could be multiple sources that people are confusing as Q. Like not everything that comes out as Q could be the same source. I mean, I'm not an expert with computers, but I don't see why someone couldn't hack this code on 4chan. You know, it's not like cryptocurrency or blockchain technology. It's just basic, encrypted website. So there's that. Or Q could be a psyop to keep everyone full of hope and complacent when the reality is that there's no one there who's going to save us. And if we don't save ourselves, then nobody else will. It really could be that. It could be a massive dose of opiate sedative to just sort of keep all the patriots staying at home, eating their popcorn. Who knows? But at this point, I don't think Q is good for anyone. At this point, I mean, point, really. And the other thing that occurred to me too is do we deserve freedom if we don't take it ourselves?
Got it. Yep. اوکی، ایشون در مورد کیو داشتن صحبت می‌کردیم، در مورد جریان کیو انان. ایشون هم مثل من دقیقاً معتقدن که واقعا نمیدونیم که دقیقاً پشت کیو چه چیزایی هستش، چه افرادی هستن. بعضی اخبار خیلی مثبتی ازشون به گوش میرسه، بعضی اخبار خیلی بدی به گوش میرسیده، در مورد اینکه این سایتشون چجوری اینکریپت میکنه دیتاها رو، اطلاعات خیلی کاملی وجود نداره. اما در نهایت در کلیت اون چیزی که از کیو انان دارن میبینن امروز خیلی خوب هستش و میگن که مسیج درستی رو داره میرسونه در حقیقت نوعاً. بچه‌ها اینجا من دیدم خیلیتون در مورد ترامپ و رییس سوال پرسیدید. من حالا تو وسط سوالا میخوام این رو بپرسم. Hi Greg, actually I have lots of comments that say asking you, please ask Greg, does President Trump heard the restart voice yet? Does he know about us?
That's a very good question. For several weeks, while I was doing a lot of reporting on Restart, I was sending emails to the White House, to Trump. I don't know. Obviously, Trump doesn't read those himself, but I would imagine he's got a team of people that goes through them. And then I was trying to get Restart to as many people as I knew that maybe could get the voice. I don't know if has he ever retweeted anything to do with?
Actually, he using exactly our hashtag, make Iran great again.
I remember that. So I would think, I don't know, because here's the thing. Before I learned about Restart, I would have thought Reza Pahlavi was great. You know, it wasn't until I got educated by Restart that I understood that Reza Pahlavi was represented the Crown of England, basically represented an outside controlling force, not an actual patriot populist movement. But I didn't know that until I got and so I would imagine Trump. I could see how Trump would feel the same way, that Reza Pahlavi is the best viable solution because when you look at Iran before the 79 revolution and you look at it now, then most Americans will be like, yeah, let's go back there. Let's go back to how it was then. But it's much more complicated than that. So I don't know, but I do know that what I do see from President Trump is he does seem to be acting like a proper U.S. president. Like he's not just taking control of things. That's not what his job is. His job really is to respond to the will of the people. So I think that the American people need to start taking back what we want before, and then the president will support us. But I don't think it can be the other way around. And I think that also applies with Iran. The way Trump has been talking about Iran, Trump has been very hands off but at the same time, basically saying to the people of Iran, I'll back you up. You know?
I see. Okay. Yep. So let's run it. بچه سوال خودتون رو پرسیدم که تو کامنت ها مطرح کرده بودین که آیا فکر میکنن که پرزیدنت ترامپ صدای ریاست رو شنیده؟ آیا پیغام ریاست به گوششون رسیده؟ گفتش که من برنامه‌هایی رو که در مورد ایران و در حقیقت مخصوصا در مورد جنبش استارت طراحی کردم و تولید کردم همه رو به ادمنستریشن ترامپ تحویل دادم. اینکه خود پرزیدنت ترامپ خونده یا نه رو خیلی به ظرف قاطع نمیتونم بگم، ولی قطعا ایشون مشاورین دارن که حتما این برنامه‌ها رو میبینه، فرستاده شده برای ادمنستریشنشون. و اینکه گفتن که پرزیدنت ترامپ اگر که خیلی واضحا نمیاد در مورد مثلا یک جریان خاص مثل ریاست حرف بزنه، اینه که ایشون رئیس جمهور ایالات متحده امریکاست و کار اصلیشون حفاظت از مردم امریکا و اون سیاستش وی د پیپل در حقیقت. بعد در مورد رضا پهلوی صحبت کردن، گفتن که ایشون هم مثل خیلی دیگه قبل از اینکه با جریان ریاست آشنا بشن فکر می‌کردن که بهترین نماینده برای آینده سیاسی ایران شخصیت رضا پهلوی هستش، به علت اون بک‌گراند خانوادگی و اون ارتباطات خیلی خوبی که ایران قبل از انقلاب امریکا داشت، ولی بعدش متوجه شد که اون چیزی که در واقع تو ویدیوشون عنوان کردن ایشون پاپت گلوبالیستا هستش، یعنی اون عروسک تیم شب‌بازی گلوبالیستا اصلا نظرشون رو گفتن. من میخوام در مورد روابط ایران و امریکا ازشون بپرسم که آیا فکر میکنن در نهایت این ماجرا به جنگ ختم میشه یا نه. So you know what, let's talk, actually you already mentioned about the President Trump and its allies, so I'm going to ask you about Iran, I mean nowadays Iran and the United States. What's your opinion about Iran and recent events and verbal conflict between Iran and United States? Do you think is there any possibility to military confrontation between Iran and US?
Oh, I think it's very likely. I think so. When you see what's happened in America, you see, well, COVID happened everywhere, but COVID, after COVID, the riots, the Black Lives Matter terrorist organization unleashing against the American citizens, the entire pop culture, mainstream media supporting that, basically shaming any American who questions it as being a racist, you know, all that stuff. So what this does is it makes you realize something's coming next. There's war right now. These aren't small things. These are big plays. So something's coming next. And so when I think of what's coming next, the thing that makes the most sense to me would be for Iran to attack America with some type of bioweapon, some major city in America, which would then cause America to then shut everyone down like they've been trying to do with COVID. Now they're shutting everyone down for this. Everyone's already sort of like prepared to be shut down. Millions of people have already had their jobs taken away from them. And so the goal is to destroy Trump and to destroy America. And the easiest way to do that at this point, I think, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and usually what the enemy does is smarter than me, so it probably won't be this. But the best thing that I can think of is Iran, because no one would question that. No one would question it. You know?
Yeah.
It's like everyone kind of expects it. And I think that was what the whole purpose of the Islamic Republic was. The entire purpose of the 1979 revolution was to put psychotics in control of Iran so that someday they could be used to start World War III, along with North Korea. And this is also what I found very interesting about Q, is that from the very beginning, Q was exposing North Korea and Iran as being proxies of the globalists, which is, I think, true. So I thought that was very interesting that Q revealed that right away. And it also, that's why Trump has been trying to neutralize North Korea and Iran, is to somehow avoid this. I would ask you and your audience, as a follow-up to this, have you seen any changes in the Islamic Republic? Like, have you seen any changes as far as...
No.
No?
Of course, no. it's going to be worse and worse actually.
Yeah.
It's not getting better. So ازشون پرسیدم در مورد اینکه روابط آینده ایران و آمریکا چجور ارزیابی میکنن و آیا اینکه یه جنگی شکل خواهد گرفت یا نه. ایشون خیلی به صراحت گفتن که اتفاق میفته، برای اینکه علتش اینه که رژیم جمهوری اسلامی ایران از اساس یک رژیم ایدئولوژیکیه که اومده که این نفرت پراکنی رو پخش بکنه در دنیا. خیلی واضح اشاره کردم به یکی از توییت های در حقیقت جنبش کیو در مورد رابطه ایران و کره شمالی که به درستی اشاره کردنشون هم که در حقیقت ایران و کره شمالی در حقیقت یک جورایی اون متحدین استراتژیک همدیگه برای نابودی امریکا هستن و اینکه رژیم جمهوری اسلامی هدفش واقعا نهایتا تولید جنگ جهانی سوم بوده. همون بحث ایدئولوژی محتویتش میگه آیا از سوالی که از ما پرسید آیا رژیم ایران تغییر کرده به نظرتون؟ خب اگه تغییر نکرده خب قطعا ایدئولوژیش هم تغییر نکرده و این خیلی پاسیبل هست که همچین اتفاقی بیفته. من خودم در مورد جان بولتون ازشون بپرسم. So, hey Greg, let's talk about recent action. John Bolton. So you know that the Rizal leader 5 years ago talked about, actually you mentioned that, about the coup was the globalists want to happen to Iran and put their own allies in leadership of Iran. In one of the tweets, Rizal leader mentioned the John Bolton is going to be supporting the MEK and Reza Pahlavi to do for the same things. So what do you think about him?
Well, one of the reasons I like the restart movement is like a lot like the InfoWars audience. You know, the InfoWars audience is, we're not really political. You know, we're not like Republican or conservative or liberal or Democrat or we're just seeking truth and mostly learning about the corruption and the deception, learning about the lie, and that's one of the best ways to liberate yourself. So, John Bolton, everyone knows John Bolton is, we would call him a neocon in America.
Neocon,
a war hawk, and anyone who's paying attention, who's not like stuck on political partisan lines and stuff in America, knows that about Bolton. And so the big question for a lot of us was, why did Trump ever take him on? You know, like, so that's a big question right there. Why did Trump, some people think it's some type of strategy, keeping letting the enemy expose themselves. However, I don't see how Bolton really ever exposed himself in that position. It seems more like he just failed at what he was there to do. Who knows? Maybe he did. Maybe there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why Sayed Mohammed Husseini and Restart has garnered a lot of support from American patriots, is because those American patriots that are paying attention and that are seeing what's happening recognize the commonality, the truth seeking. You know, basically, it's all about seeking truth. It's not about picking a side, or unless your side is truth. You know?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's correct. So, ایشون در مورد جان بولتون صحبت کردن و اینکه در حقیقت تو امریکا اینها رو نیو کانزرواتیو مینامن، کسانی که جنگ طلبن. دقیقاً خدمات حسینی هم تو توییتشون من اشاره کرده بودن که ایشون فقط کلا به دنبال جنگن. اگه اشاره نکنم پرزیدنت ترامپ هم تو توییتی دقیقاً منشن کرده بودن که ایشون فقط دنبال جنگه، ولی واسش مهم نیست که بمب سر کی بریزه. میگه هدف اینها در حقیقت اون جنگ طلبی هستش، اون چیزایی که خودشون در حقیقت میخوان، اون ایده هایی که خودشون دارن. و اینکه انسان خیلی جالبی نبود جان بولتون. نظرشون هم همینه که در حقیقت بالاخره اون جنگ بین خیر و شر وجود میاد، بالاخره اینکه مهمه که اون طرف خودتو بگیری. من آخرین سوال ازشون بپرسم در مورد اینکه در مورد اینترنت، شرایط ایران، جنبش‌هایی که توی ایران وجود و اینترنتی که شات داون میشه، در مورد فری اینترنت میخوام بپرسم ازشون و اینکه 5 دقیقه بیشتر تو آنتای مصاحبهمون نیستش. اگه بشه ازشون وقت بگیرم دفعات بعدی همیشون رو داشته باشیم. So Greg, since we have 5 minutes left, I'm going to ask you last question. So before we move on, so can I have your word to having another interview, because there are too many questions come up and you see that people love you and send too many texts. Can I have your word for another meeting somewhere, some days in future?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that.
All right.
Is any of your audience in Iran? I'm wondering.
Most of them are in Iran, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know most of them, and those who live in Iran. Yeah, you can talk. Yeah, you can talk to them Farsi if you want.
I don't know much Farsi, but I'm rusty. I made a good friend, Persian friend, who was teaching me some Farsi, and I learned some, and I haven't been practicing lately. So, but next time I'll prepare and I'll have some. But yeah, I would be happy to.
Okay.
I really kind of fell in love with Persia. The more I learn, the more I would love to see Persia dominate the Middle East.
گاتچا. اوکی، ایشون گفتن که بهایی دوست فارسی داشتن که بهشون یه مقدار فارسی یاد دادن، تیچ کردن. کلمه سلام رو خیلی خوب بلدن، راستی رو هم بلد دادن. خیلی جالبه. بعد اینکه ازشون قول گرفتم که حتما باشون یه مصاحبه دیگه داشته باشم. حتما این بار که سورپرایز بود نگفتم ایشون رو، ولی دفعه بعد حتما عنوان میکنم، بچه‌ها میتونن سوالشون بفرستم. میخوام آخرین سوال ازشون بپرسم. So I'm going to ask you last question. Just 4 minutes left. So is there a high chance to uprising again in Iran in probably soon? So and Iranian government has shut down internet totally in the last 2 times. So what do you think about free internet that the President Trump was mentioning in their speech?
Trump was saying something about a
free internet. Yeah.
Free meaning like uncensored, like no.
Yeah, I mean because the internet was on the Iranian government control, right?
Right.
So the Iranian they totally shut it down. So there is no connection between outside and inside of Iran. If you remember, we talked about it previously. So is there any chance or is there any program or plan for sending the internet to the Iranian people or Persian people in uprising?
That's a good question. I have no idea. That, you know, it raises an interest. Like, is it possible to have some type of global internet server that can't be controlled by the local government? I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, and what I do know though is I think that I can speak for America. We're at a point in America now where I used to think there was a chance of some type of beautiful, poetic, peaceful uprising that would just change everything. I don't think that's possible anymore. I think that there are too many people that are dangerously brainwashed and confused, mentally ill, and the enemy is never, ever, ever going to submit until they're all dead. So at this point in America, at least, it's going to get very messy, I think, no matter what, even if we win. And so I would imagine this is going to be I would imagine this is true everywhere, including Iran. And so it's a numbers game. It's really going to come down to how many people awake and how many people demand freedom.
So sorry, Greg, because there's one more minute left. Last word.
Oh, from me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that would be my last word. My last word would be that we're experiencing a global awakening that's never happened in recorded history, in my opinion. And the only way that we're going to get what we want is to have enough people wake up. I tend to think that this is the will of God and that this is already ordained and we're just experiencing it, because that's how I feel. But it's an amazing time to be alive. And so my final words, I guess, would simply be thank you for watching and thank you for supporting America's freedom.
Thank you. 20 seconds.
And everyone else's. So.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. مرسی بچه‌ها که بودین. من اگه بشه احتمال اگه بتونم میام بالا باهاتون گفتگو میکنم. Thank you, Greg. I will contact you after this live too.